Welcome back to Movies Recapped. Today I will show you a South Korean comedy drama film from 2013, titled Miracle in Cell Number 7. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and enjoy. One cold winter, a lawyer, Ye-sung, left the court following a successful trial. She saw a floating balloon that was stuck onto the barbed wire on the prison perimeter. Instantly, she recalled her wounded childhood days. It all started when she stood outside a kid's store with her mentally challenged father to watch a Sailor Moon backpack advertisement and dance to the song. With only one backpack left, Yong-gu promised to buy it for her the next day, but no sooner had the father and daughter left the spot than a police commissioner purchased it for his daughter. The mentally challenged father did not know any better than to get into the shop to stop the purchase, but his pleas were taken for nuisance and he got a thorough beating as her daughter watched. In high spirit, the two went home without the bag, hoping to find it at the other local stores. The next day, Yong-gu leaves for work not without their signature goodbye dance with his daughter Ye-sung, who cares so much for his father in his condition. She hands him a bottle of boiled water while reminding him not to drink tap water and emphasizes that he eats proper food for lunch as opposed to snacks. Little Ye-sung watches her mentally challenged father take off in the cold, hoping he returns safely. It's one day at a time in this household of two. At work, Yong-gu enjoys his lunch, thrilled to bits to have received his salary, and as he recounts it, the police commissioner's daughter from the previous day encounters spots and approaches him to inform him about another store that sells the Sailor Moon backpack that he wanted the day before. So the two head there with the girl leading and Yong-gu following in silly excitement for the bag just as his daughter would, but the trip ends in a regrettable accident. The little girl slips running on the market's icy pavement and a brick drops on her head, killing her. Confused, Yong-gu goes down on his knees to perform CPR, but when his efforts seemed futile he unbuttons the girl's trousers for better blood circulation. An elderly woman walks in on him blowing into the mouth of the unconscious girl, and upon seeing the bloody brick, the elderly woman perceives him wrongly and reports him as a rapist who killed his victim. Unbeknownst to him, Yong-gu is arrested and rape charges pressed against him as an act of revenge toward the police commissioner. Night falls as poor Ye-sung waits to receive her father at the bus station, all in vain. Meanwhile, her father gets impatient at the police station and the police assault him as he tries to leave, causing a scene in the presence of news reporters and photographers. Ye-sung goes to bed without his father, and by morning she dreads the disappearance of her father, but she is shrewd enough to carry on to school. At the scene of the alleged crime, matters escalates in the pouring morning rain as the police address a demanding mob and Yong-gu is brought back for reenacting. He innocently repeats his CPR act as the all asserted murder accusations. To think that no one in the crowd could correctly read his action is painful to imagine, as this simple incident was yet to change the fate of the man and his daughter forever. Perhaps if they saw her daughter, whom he loved and adored, yelling for him amongst the crowd, she would save her father, but she was a child and negligible in the crowd. Even as they dragged him away to prison, he spots his daughter and promises to be home soon. Unfortunate Yong-gu is thrown into a cell with 5 hardened criminals: Bong Shik, a pickpocket; Chun-ho, a fraudster; Man Bom, an adulterer; Leader, a smuggling gangster; and Grandpa Seo, a self-injury fraudster. You would think they would consider him one of them since they all find themselves in the same circumstances, but the reception was utterly brutal as they called him filthy for the crime on his record. Ye-sung is relocated to an orphanage, and the poor child left a note at the door saying, "Daddy, I am at an orphanage," hoping he would fetch her when he returned soon. His father equally yearned for his dear daughter as he wrote her name on the sand every chance he got. As innocent and harmless as Yong-gu was, he still lacked self-defense and wit to survive the prison predatory life. He got stabbed with a sharp plastic object once, but at least his roommates looked out for him just like a brother, knowing he is mentally disabled. As they say, good things happen to good people. Ye-sung was selected at the orphanage to be among 3 children to sing in the choir in prison for their Sunday worship. As soon as the cellmates saw this, they brought her into the cell to surprise the father and daughter with a brief reunion. Emotions filled the rooms as the child failed to understand why her father disappeared to this strange place, abandoning her, while the father lacked the words to explain to her little Ye-sung how he tried everything to get home to her, but there was nothing he could do. As if the emotions triggered were not enough, the little girl had to fathom the thought of leaving her father just 30 minutes into the visit after the service was cut short since the pastor collapsed due to high blood pressure. Ye-sung finally says goodbye after much protest, but they missed the bus, therefore she had to be returning in the cell. Dinner comes and they share the meal as they deliberate on the next course of action. Finally, they settle on sending her out in 2 days when there would be a religious ceremony in the prison, but until then, cell number 7 was a roller coaster of events. They laughed, argued, danced, and even played mind games on the prison guard to not get caught. This created a bond altogether as they were all a team in this. On the day of the religious ceremony, they all successfully took turns to smuggle Ye-sung into the church podium so she can join the choir, but upon getting there Ye-sung was shocked to find monks and not a Christian choir on the stage. Back in the administration, as police officers were going through the Sunday ceremony pictures, they noticed Ye-sung was missing in one of the pictures taken, prompting them to investigate further by conducting an urgent searches through the cells, and sure enough she was found. Her poor father and the innocent guard are being held responsible for risking the jobs of other staff working in the prison. It was even worse for Yong-gu considering his charges. He was thrown into solitary confinement to sleep on the bare floor, tied up arms to feet, but all he could think about was how terrified his daughter must be. Following Ye-sung's incident, an inmate protested by starting a fire claiming unequal treatment and visitation rights. All were forced to evict the premises to avoid any casualties, but on their way out, Yong-gu noticed the prison head officer trapped in the fire, so he risked his own life by running into the fire to save him, and the two shared a hospital room for recovery. The head of the prison was humbled to hear how Yong-gu saved his life and began to question his true intentions and wonder if indeed he was rightfully accused. Meanwhile, Ye-sung visited her old school and talked to her teacher into visiting her father with her since she had an ID, so they too took off to prison, and the teacher witnessed how much this little girl was responsible for her life as well as her father's, seeing that she helps him pay bills, fees, and insurance on time after every payday and encourages her father to save some money. The little girl assured her father that she remembers her home training by going over their home routine, all while the head prison officer watched from the glass door. The officer was touched by the sincerity of their love and could feel the pain in their voices as the visitation period ended and they had to say goodbye. Upon more observation of Yong-gu's behavior, the officer could see how he stood out from the other inmates and how unproblematic he was, thus raising eyebrows on the circumstances of his arrest. Soon after, he found out that Ye-sung had been hospitalized and the orphanage abandoned its obligations toward funding her hospital bills. As he stood beside Ye-sung's hospital bed, she begged him to arrest her so that she may live with her father in prison, and left him at crossroads. Just as Yong-gu risked his life to save him, he decided to risk his job for his daughter, so he brought her to his father and she lived in cell number 7. The warden devoted himself to following up the truth about Yong-gu's arrest, even going as far as committing himself to pick up the girl from school. At school, Ye-sung's classmate brought a cell phone from home to show off during lunch break. She borrowed it and took it to her now new friends and cellmates, who were very excited to use it to talk with their families. The cell grew to be more homely as they laughed more often and even taught an illiterate cellmate how to read and write as a team. They were all happier to be with each other and felt less imprisoned. Yong-gu became more likable as he proved to be nicer and harmless, and so they helped him prepare his defense statement for the day of his trial, which was fast approaching. They coached him on his speech, wrote notes for him, and even signed a petition for his case to be revised with the new facts. On his part, he practiced and sharpened his memory even though he strained to memorize. A public lawyer visited him, but he was not keen enough to be sensitive with Yong-gu, seeing that he was mentally retarded. Furthermore, he instilled fear in the poor father that the police commissioner would harm Yong-gu and his daughter should he be set free. He had been paid to jeopardize Yong-gu's defense. On the day of the trial, the police commissioner assaulted him and threatened to kill Ye-sung if he did not admit to the crime, and so he did after so much self-deliberation for the sake of Ye-sung. As the law would have it, Yong-gu was sentenced to death. The day of the execution was fast approaching, so Yong-gu's cellmates realized they had to save his life. However, they could so devise a hot air balloon escape, which they improvised with prison yard apprentices who were also interested in the welfare of Yong-gu. On that fateful day, they all so do it that father and daughter got into the hot air balloon unsuspected and they floated them out, but unfortunately just as the mission was almost accomplished, the balloon got stuck to the barbed wire on the prison perimeter. All the blood, sweat, and tears shed on this project, not to mention the risk of heftier sentences, but fate just did not have it. The duo resumed cell number 7, and while all this happened, father and daughter had no idea it was an escape plan. They probably thought it was a cozy sundowner picnic just for the two of them. Life went on. Ye-sung's birthday came and they celebrated with cake, but most importantly the Yong-gu gifted her the Sailor Moon backpack that she was so madly in love with. Ye-sung could not hold her admiration for her father's affection. She told him how grateful she was that he was her father, and he responded in equal gratitude as the cellmates almost cried, knowing this could be their last chance to ever appreciate each other. On the day of execution, the entire prison was silent as everyone bit their tongues at what was about to happen. Poor Ye-sung walked her father to execution, clueless of what lay ahead. She promised her father that she would get good grades and she would always visit him no matter how long. She assured him that she was not angry and would never be, for being absent in the outside world, but all the poor man could do was cry uncontrollably in utter regret and dismay for letting her daughter go one last time, forever apart. As Yong-ju wailed at the face of death, his daughter could tell something was amiss. His fear became contagious and she caught its chills, breaking uncontrollably, confused that her father seemed a bit too worried today. Their screams echoed against the prison walls as all prisoners and guards froze in time, helplessly letting the painful voice of terror pierce right into their very souls. This was not fit for any human to experience, leave alone this innocent, helpless little girl, who would grow up with severe childhood trauma, but nothing could be done. The man had to die. Today Ye-sung stands before a panel of judges and a jury to clear her father's name, to make him proud, and to be free of self-conviction. She recounts the trauma engraved in her from her childhood with only her word and utmost faith that her father's fight ends today in the presence of his fellow inmates, who are now free citizens, and the former head of security in the prison, all who took the stand despite their criminal past to defend this angelic, irreplaceable man, and eventually the man was exonerated as a panel of judges ruled him not guilty. To top it off, Ye-sung acquired the historical files of her father's case to take home with her alongside the victory for her father. Hope is all it is for her to heal from the trauma of misplaced anger of another traumatized human being, because such is life. Please remember to like and subscribe, and click the bell icon to get notifications about new movie recaps.